Happy Monday. Hope you guys had a beautiful, blessed weekend. Today, we're going to talk about podcasting. I've gotten a lot of comments asking me, how do you start a podcast? What direction should I go in? What topic should I cover? What products should I use? What hosting site should I use? So I want to talk about all of those things, talk about the mental fortitude and the resilience you need to have emotionally, talking to the public and stating your case and stating your opinions on things. We're going to get into all that today. It's going to be a fun episode. I think this is a great topic because a lot of you want to get in on this and it's a great time to do it. But I want you guys to have eyes wide open on the landscape in the field. So we're going to get into that today. This is How to Build a Tent. My name is Matt Williams. Thank you for listening to the show, sharing the show. If you haven't already, share it. And if you're watching this on a social media site as we're live streaming, like it, love it. That helps us get the word out. It helps continue to grow this show. Part of the business of having a podcast is we have faithful listeners that are champions for us, that hear the show, believe in the show, and then they share it. So I'd really appreciate you guys doing that. Whenever I see it, I just got a smile on my face. So put a smile on my face and share this show. We are part of the Fight Laugh Feast Network. You can go over to fightlaughfeast.com, put in HTBT in the memo field. I just was booking some airlines, and I was booking some tickets on an airline, and I was putting in the letters of my confirmation code to change them. I was going through and trying to use B for Bravo, C for Charlie. And there was Q, and I couldn't come up with these Q for question. Is that the one? S is for sizzle. It was really funny. Anyways, I was doing that. Go over to HTBT, go into Fight Laugh Feast Network, put in HTBT in the memo field. You'll get this mug. You'll get tons of great content. We have our book club, the HTBT book club. We also have a great discussion with Keith Darrell that we had about creation and the importance of having a great creation and a redemptive story, even more so than an eschatological belief system. So we talked about that and the importance of it. And then there's tons of other great stuff for you too. You get a mug and you get tons of value and benefit. So go over there, fightlaughfeast.com, put in HTBT in the memo field. If you want to reach out to me, you can find me, Matt, at howtobuildatent.com. And you can follow me on the social media sites, How to Build a Tent, like some of you may be watching from the live stream. All right, let's get into the show today. So these statistics are from 2019, and it's a really great infographic that we're going to go and read through. 700,000 active podcasts. So right there, I want you to just stop and think about this. Do you have a story to tell? Do you have information that is beneficial, that is going to set you apart from 700,000 podcasts? And you may. And it's not a discouraging question, but similar to when you are starting a business, when you are starting to pitch to people to raise money, and this is a business, when you are starting to do those things, you need to really think about the value that you are going to provide that is going to get people to listen to your show instead of the 700,000 that are out there. And that's the beauty of the free market, is it's a challenge because you have the freedom to listen to whatever you want. This isn't North Korea where you are told what to do. They play music around the whole city every morning that is, propaganda. But we live in a country where you don't have to listen to anything you don't want to listen to. So you are going to have to condense and create basically an elevator pitch that you know in your head and can reiterate to yourself and tell yourself and filter through all the content that you're going to want to go through and say, can I deliver this message in a way that people are going to see it as valuable and more valuable than the other shows that are out there, the other podcasts that are out there? Because you have to understand that no one's listening to 700,000 shows. That's kind of obvious, right? But do you take the extreme example down and realize that people only have a certain amount of time in their day? I mean, the Fight Laugh Feast Network already has more shows on it than you could listen to in a day. I doubt there is anybody, even our great super fans, our subscribers have been with us from the beginning. I doubt that they all listen to every single show on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. Even if they did, they would not be able to listen to anything else. And we're just one network. And so you have to create a value proposition that you believe in so much that can set you apart, that you can talk day in and day out, even when it's not specifically about that value proposition or whatever story you're trying to convey, but have those sub stories and sub events and sub facts that can support that value proposition, and that you can tell it in an articulate, exciting way. Then you need to maybe think about not doing this. But if you can, then let's continue. Of those 700,000 active podcasts, 29 million episodes. Now, there's some podcasts that do daily, some that do weekly, and that's something you need to think about too. So one of the most important things is consistency, not just with podcasts, but with anything you do, especially when you want people to show up and arrive at an event. In this case, you want them to subscribe every single day that you are releasing a new show. And if you're not consistent, then it's going to really hinder you from getting people that are going to show up day in and day out. So when you're considering how many or how often you are going to do a show, daily, weekly, monthly, you need to make sure that you're going to be able to consistently deliver a valuable product, a quality product, like we were talking about earlier. There are over 100 languages. All right, so here are the top 5 most popular genres. Now, before I tell you what they are, I just want you to think that, because the tendency is, okay, so I need to do a show based on one of these 5 most popular. Well, that's not true, because those are going to be the areas where most people go to, and you're going to have fierce competition. But you may be able to find a niche in not one of these genres where you can excel. You don't have to be in the most popular genres, but you can find and carve out a niche in another genre that isn't as popular and dominate that genre alone. Don't think that you have to be one of the popular genres for a podcast, especially because of how cheap podcasts are relative to the production. My friend AD Robles, my co-host on Reformgelical, he talks about this a lot, where he has more followers and listeners than some of the big Eva people that spend tens of thousands of more dollars than he does. And he has basic equipment, but he is still more effective, and he delivers and gets a bigger audience than the people that spend much more money than he does. And so do with you. You can create a podcast on a budget that is right off the bat, just because it's a podcast, can be cheaper than, Fox News, CNN, and all of those companies. They spend millions and millions of dollars on production. They have to deliver right away. But because you can start up for so cheap and your overhead costs are going to be so small that are reoccurring, you don't need to worry necessarily about being the most popular and getting the most numbers. So just keep that in mind. You don't need to be part of these genres, but you can be in a less popular genre and just dominate in that field. So these are the top 5: society and culture, business, how to build 10, comedy, news and politics, and health. Now, the Fight Laugh Feast Network kind of focuses on those 3: society and culture, business, news and politics. I guess we need a doctor and we need a comedian to come onto our network as well to complete the 5. Here's the demographic. 70% of the U.S. population are familiar with the term podcasting. I don't know what those other 30% are. Who has not heard of a podcast? 51% of the U.S. population has listened to a podcast. 32% of the population listen to a podcast at least every month. 22% listen to podcasts weekly. 6% of the population are avid podcast fans. I want to you think about that. 6%, 700,000 podcasts, 6% of the population listens weekly or avidly. The main years, age group, I should say, a demographics: 25 to 34, 28%, and then 35 to 44 is 21%, which is most of us, right? definitely in that. I'm about to tip into the 35 to 44. Goodbye, the young prime demographic. Oh, I feel so old. And it is a pretty well-educated podcast. Listeners are 45% more likely to have some college or have a college degree. 56% are more likely to be undergraduates. 68% are likely to be postgraduate. And then there is a substantial amount of income. One of the other facts that I just wanted to hit is there's a pretty even split between men and women that listen to podcasts, which is something to remember when you are doing advertising, which is a perfect time to introduce to you our new sponsor, Skillshare. Now, Skillshare is a great platform that has tens of thousands of classes, and I was really excited to hear that they wanted to join the show and sponsor us and support us, which I hope you guys will help and sponsor them too. And I know you will, because a lot of you guys ask me, like, I want to get more information on certain business skills, or I want to learn how to tell an articulate story. I want to learn more about Excel. A lot of these courses or a lot of these skills that you guys are asking for is really hard for me to do on a podcast, but they have these great classes that you can take on demand, and they can help you with your business. They can help you with starting a podcast. They can help you with your, growing your photography business, or growing your, whatever you are doing, your programming skills or whatever it is. They have online community, and they have thousands of classes from graphic design, photography, UX, UI design, which you have heard me talk about how important that is. So if you want to start building a website for whatever business you're doing, you can take classes on that. They have creative writing. I've talked to a lot of you authors. They have music production, which is helpful for podcasting, film, video, marketing, freelance, entrepreneurship, you name it, they've got it. And they have tons and tons of classes on demand so that you can learn at your own pace. If you're busy, you have a family like I do, and you don't always have the time to just consistently be taking a class every night, you can take it at your leisure or whenever you have time to fit in a course, and just to build up your skills and to become more marketable and become more successful. You can get inspired and join a class, create something that you love. They're going to give you the skills to do it. It's a great alternative to tens of thousands of dollars of student loan debt. I love the communities that they have. They have groups where you can work on projects together, and they have experts in the field. You can see who's teaching the class and what their experience is, which I really love. Their Excel classes are a foundation. I mean, Excel is a need to know, and a lot of people don't know all the things that you can use Excel for, and it'll just make your life easier. So join the millions of students that are already learning on Skillshare and get 2 months free when you sign up. You go to Skillshare.com/HTBT. 2 months for free. You can go check it out, join classes, see which ones you like, get a feel for it for free. Go to Skillshare.com/HTBT. 2 whole months free of unlimited access to thousands of courses for free. Get started today by heading to Skillshare.com/HTBT to sign up. That's Skillshare.com/HTBT. Thank you for Skillshare joining the show and supporting us. I really appreciate it. If you guys are interested, go support them and help support the show by checking them out. 2 months for free. Another aspect to consider with podcasting is the emotional aspect of it. You have this great story to tell. You have this knowledge to share. You're passionate about it. You're sharing it. You refine your speech so that you can communicate and articulate in an effective way. And then you find out that you have people listening to you that have opinions that may or may not align with what you're saying. They may disagree. It happens a lot in the Reformed community, where you will be told where and how you're wrong. And they may even tell you that you don't know what you're talking about. Now, I'm just saying it's not only with the Reformed community, it's everybody, right? We all have our opinions. People that listen to podcasts are often people that are wanting to learn and are intellectual and smart. And so you have to prepare yourself for the criticism that's going to come from the people that aren't going to like what you have to say. And you really have to have a humility and not have a fear of man. So be prepared for that. That is something that people will often overlook is the criticism that you are going to face yourself from your listeners. And let me just tell you this, though. If you have people willing to write to you and tell you how they feel, that's a really good thing. I love when people even disagree with me. I love when people reach out to me. That's why I always have my email out, matt@howtobuildatent.com. I tell you my social media sites, how to build a tent. I try to respond to everybody that I can, and to some extent, unless it's a total like clown that is just trolling, then I won't respond to you. But I want to engage. I want to hear what you guys have to say. And sometimes I don't like it. Sometimes it hurts, but I'm trying to always use it for a tool to better myself. And you should do that too. So that's just something you need to keep in mind. Are you willing to face the criticism of the crowd? Are you willing to be told that you're not good enough? Are you willing to be told that you need to do things better? I get told it all the time. And there sometimes are really good points that I do need to improve on. And along with that, you need to be able to listen and watch yourself. That is the hardest thing for me to do in podcasting, is to listen to myself, not only to do post-production and editing. And when you start off in the beginning, like, you're the one doing everything. You're doing your show prep. You're preparing with all the points that you're going to talk about. You're seeing how much time it's going to take. You do the show. You're the personality. And then you also are the producer too. You do the post-production. And not only do you have to listen to yourself to do that and to make sure that you have a great product to give out, but you also need to listen to yourself to find your ticks, to find the fillers that you use. I was using with Reformgelical, even after doing 300 shows on how to build a tent and going over to Reformgelical, I found myself saying like a lot, and just listening to it revealed that I was doing it. I didn't know that I was saying that word when I was doing the show, but now I do, because I had to listen to myself. And let me tell you, it is like nails on the chalkboard. So you need to be able to be humble enough to listen to yourself as well, because that's the only way you're going to get better. That's the only way that you're going to see the ticks and see the filler words that you use and the ways that you can get better. You don't use as many hand motions as I do, as you can see right here. I'm looking at my camera. So now I want to also just close off with some hard, cold facts, statistics. So I don't know what your perception is of how many listeners that you think you're going to get, but it's going to be humbling, let me tell you. And I've been blessed to be part of the network, the Fight Laugh Feast network, where we are all in the top caliber of podcast listens. That is, we are in the top, I believe every single one of our shows, every episode of our shows hits the top 10% of all podcasts. Now, I'm going to give you some numbers on what that means. Now, this might be an encouragement to you who have podcasts already, and you're looking at your numbers and you feel really discouraged. But just remember, there's 700,000 podcasts and there's 24 million episodes. And people only listen to, I think, about 3 or 4 podcasts. They have 3 or 4 that they listen to, and those are their podcasts. 700,000, 6% are active listeners in the United States. And when you start doing that math, you realize that it is a free market brawl where we are continually trying to innovate, to polish ourselves, to get you to help us share the shows, help support us so we can have more money to make our product better, because it is a fight. It is a dogfight. I love it. I love capitalism. I love the free market, but it is a struggle. So here's some facts for you. Now, this is numbers when the first 30-day average. So you launch your podcast, and then it takes about 30 days to get a fair count of your shows, because a lot of people listen the first day it's released, but then a lot of people catch up. Like for my show, it's daily. I've noticed that people will listen to my show in batches. They won't necessarily listen to it at first. So I don't get to my max listeners till about the 30th episode, which is more than 30 days. And that might be because we're on a network too and on the same stream. I don't really know. It's really interesting to see. But okay, so here we go. Approximately the average podcast in the first 30 days, guess, how many downloads do you think, or listens, do you think the average podcast gets? Tens of thousands, 1,000, 141. The average podcast gets 141 downloads or listens an episode. For those of you who haven't started yet, That should be humbling. That should really make you search deep that you need to create a show that is going to probably reach 141 people in the first 30 days. For those of you who already have a podcast, I hope that's encouraging if you've been discouraged about your numbers. If you have over 3,400 downloads, you're in the top 10%. 3,400 downloads puts you in the top 10% of all podcasts. And like I said, every single one of our shows on the network and every episode of our shows hits that mark with no problem whatsoever. If you have over 9,000 downloads, you're in the top 5%. 9,000. If you have over 50,000 downloads per episode, you're in the top 1%. Now, again, that's just the data. That's the facts. 700,000 shows are out there. And they have to be divided between 6% of the U.S. population. So that should give you a gut check. Again, do you have something valuable to share? Do you have knowledge that people want to hear? If you do, and you feel that you can articulate it in an entertaining, captive way, then go for it. You don't need that much. You can start with just an iPhone. You can start with a GoPro. You can get a Focusrite interface. You can get a LCT 240 Pro. I think I got all my stuff for like under $500. Some lights. Get some help from somebody to help you like test out and look and to see the lighting. I still haven't even got that right. But it doesn't cost that much. So I want to encourage you. If you have a story to tell, if you have information, why not go for it? See what can happen. So you want to start a podcast, go do it. We'll talk to you tomorrow.